Hi, everyone. Welcome to the brand new episode of Quietly Ambitious. I started this podcast because I wanted to tell the world that ambition may not always look loud. These are the small wins that win every day. And with me, I have a very special guest, Mr. Prateek Pujari, who's the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of LetsTransport, a leading logistics startup. In India, logistics sector accounts to around $400 billion and it contributes to 14% of our GDP. Yet, it is one of the most unorganized and unstructured sectors in the whole country. Let's Transport is trying to bring efficiency to this sector, and I'm happy to have a conversation with Prateek, who will take us through his journey. He started his career with Unilever, which is one of the most structured organizations in the world, then is running a startup now. Prateek also had a very short stint with Wharton School of Business. He went to pursue his MBA, but came back after 6 months to build his dream with Let's Transport. So, Prateek, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for interacting with us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So, let's talk about your journey, Prateek. I mean, you were working with Unilever, and Unilever is known to have a lot of systems in place. And then you moved to a startup. So, what were some of the learnings which you basically picked up at Unilever, which help you even today?
Wow, this was a long time back. So I joined Unilever in 2012. So it's close to 13 years now. When top of my mind are two or three things, major things that I learned from Unilever, which helped me while building Let's Transport. First of all, I was very fortunate to join Unilever as a management trainee. So for the first 15 months, we were given exposure not only to our domain, which was supply chain, but to all other domains of the organization, which was sales, product, R&D, etc., which gave a flavor of how every department works. And with a startup, you have to do anything and everything from day one itself. So that really helped me in terms of having that sort of visibility. The second thing was the fact that the importance of controls and processes. When you're doing a startup, right, this seems to be a restriction in terms of controls and processes in place. But as and when we grew Let's Transport, right, I was able to sort of understand what are the importance of systems and controls and processes. And I was all sort of, able to lean back on my experience with Unilever to sort of, put some of the learnings at Let's Transport. And the third thing is, I think Unilever is a very analytical company and puts a lot of focus on data and numbers and KPIs. And I think that is something that I was able to translate to Let's Transport. So these are a few things that I believe Unilever really helped me gain during those 4 years with them.
Wow, that's a lot of experience and a lot of learnings in the initial years. So then when is it that you decided to become an entrepreneur or move towards building your own company?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So as I mentioned, I worked for 4 years with Unilever, and it was a great experience, learned a lot. But somehow there was an inherent feeling inside me that, I want to do something on my own, grow something from scratch. And that at that particular point in time, startups were booming in India. I basically joined Let's Transport in 2016. So 2014, 2015 were like great years in terms of funding and all that stuff. So that was something that was interesting me at that particular point in time. And why particularly logistics? When I basically was a manufacturing manager in a couple of manufacturing sites with Unilever. We used to produce Persil Wash, Lux, Lifebuoy, Breeze. I think all of us would have used it. We used to produce those products in the factories. And one of the biggest challenges that I used to face as a manufacturing manager was my raw materials and packaging materials not reaching the factory on time. And one of the biggest challenges was the lines getting shut, production getting shut because raw materials have not come, packaging materials have not come. And one of the major reasons why they were not coming is the fact that they were delayed on the road. The trucks were not reaching on time. And in that factory, we had around a team of around 6-7, distribution managers or transport managers whose only work was to sort of, get on a call up those particular drivers, chase them and ask them, where are you? When are you going to reach? How the time they switch off the phones, you're not able to track them. There were a couple of times, funnily enough, I was in a place called Orai in Uttar Pradesh, where the manufacturing site was. Because the line was shut and the trucks were not reaching on time, we actually took a car and went on the highways trying to locate that particular truck because the driver was not picking up the phone, right? So, and that's when I realized that it's a very, very inefficient manner in which logistics and transportation is done in India. And that was a time when there was the advent of, smartphones coming in and technology coming in. And it's like, why can't we leverage this technology to do these things that much more efficiently rather than so manually, right? And that's what I believe, that I personally felt that there's a lot of inefficiency in the logistics and transportation space, and that's what sort of attracted me to logistics and transportation. And at that particular point, I'm obviously startups were booming, and I wanted to do something from scratch. So both of them coincidentally came up at the same time.
So you moved from a multinational to a startup, and I'm sure that change was not easy. Now, my next question, and a very important question for our viewers, is that you went to Wharton for 6 months. You were doing a 2-year MBA, and after 6 months, you decided to come back. So you must have picked up a lot of learnings in Wharton. What are those learnings? Would you like to share with our viewers? And the second question would be that what made you come back to India and build LetsTransport? Because a lot of people would consider an MBA as a comfort, and leaving an MBA and coming back to unstructured or unplanned startup would be something which people would see that it's a very different path. So what made you take that path?
Got it. So I'll answer the second question first, or what made me come back. So basically, when I was in college, right, when IITs, the common theme was that complete your BTech, work with a large organization for 3 to 4 years, and go and do an MBA, right?
Yeah.
From a US B school or a European B school. So that was typically the path that all of us were particularly following, and that was the path that I was also on till I joined LetsTransport, right? Passed out and then worked with Unilever for 4 years. And so that was always in the back of my mind. And frankly speaking, there was a bit of pressure externally as well in terms of, doing an MBA and doing a postgraduate. So when I joined LetsTransport, when I was sort of building LetsTransport parallelly, I thought it might not be a bad idea in terms of giving the GMAT, in terms of applying to some particular B schools and try to sort of figure out how it works. I was very lucky to, get admitted into Wharton. This was in July. I was in 2018, 2020 batch. But even before joining Wharton, I was really enjoying what I was doing at LetsTransport. It was close to 2 years that I was working with LetsTransport. We were growing the business. The business was doing really well. We were on the verge of raising a Series B round of funding, right? So I was actually in 2 months, even before going to Wharton, whether I should be going at this particular juncture or not. And that's when I talked to a lot of people, mentors, people who had actually gone to Wharton as well. And they said that, don't take a decision that you will regret later. If you had an opportunity, go and, explore the same. If you really enjoy it, continue doing it. If not, then you always have an option of, coming back. And that's the reason why I went to Wharton at that particular point in time. I was always in 2 months, even before going there. But the Wharton experience was amazing, right? I think it is nothing really, anything compared to, the sort of education that is, there in India. First of all, my batch was around, close to around 600-700 people, out of which half were obviously from America and half were from all around the world. So the diversity is absolutely insane. Talking to people from all different backgrounds, right? I mean, I had a classmate who had represented Israel in the Olympics, right, in figure skating, right? I had another colleague who had actually was a negotiator for the US military with the Taliban, right? So there were people from that sort of a background. So I mean, it was absolutely insane, the experience over there. The way people, interact over there. It's a very, I mean, the way education is also, at least in the B schools over there, is very, very different. It's very, very hands-on. There's a lot of participation. It's not a very formal sort of, rote learning that happens over there. So that's absolutely amazing. Having said that, what I realized is that, and again, talking to a lot of people and experiencing a lot of stuff over there and traveling around the USA for a few months, was the fact that I didn't see myself, being in the US for the long term. Right. I actually saw there was a bit more potential from my perspective to be in India, from the long-term perspective. Working with a very large organization and working with a startup, I realized I would really love to work with startups going forward. I didn't see myself working with a large organization at that particular point in time. And the third thing was that the Series B round of funding of LetsTransport actually culminated at that particular point in time. So there was fundraising and, there was funding that was there, and then the next step was basically just to grow LetsTransport. So all this happened within the 6 months. And again, a couple of things. What I realized was the fact that if you don't see yourself staying in the US for a long period of time, it's better to come back faster, right, rather than spending time over there. It becomes that much more difficult to sort of come back. And second was the fact that the opportunity, I realized with startups, right, time is of essence, right? So if I sort of delayed coming back by 2 years, I don't know where LetsTransport would have been at that particular point in time. So if I had an opportunity at that particular point in time was absolutely of essence, right? The sooner I come back, the better. And these are two of the major reasons why I decided to come back in 6 months. Just completed a semester and I came back. And I was actually fortunate enough to get something called a leave of absence, which some of the top B schools give to go back, and they give you actually 5 years to go back and explore any ideas that you have. And if it goes well, great. If not, then you can come back and complete a degree from where you left off in the span of 5 years. So I actually availed of that. So that is also over. So I'm officially a dropout right now. But that also gave a bit of comfort when I came back.
Okay, so the American dream was not for you when you came back to India and built your own startup.
Yeah, I think I was more inclined to the Indian dream.
So yeah. So now moving to your Indian dream, let's talk about LetsTransport. So when you were building LetsTransport, what were the initial few challenges which you and your co-founders faced? Was it getting new clients? Was it adapting to the tech which is available, or was it settling the on-ground chaos? What were the initial challenges? Could you let us know?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of them were large challenges.
Yeah.
But a couple of things that come to the top of my mind was the fact that as LetsTransport, we focus on enterprise businesses. We work with medium to large, Indian conglomerates as well as MNCs in this particular space. So as a young startup, getting entry into these large organizations was a big challenge. So the sales cycles were significantly large, and you needed a lot of perseverance and determination to sit and sort of, continuously call those particular clients, get a particular, a slot from them, and then try to convert them. So that was definitely one big major challenge in terms of getting clients in the very initial phases. The second was, so from the supply side, we work with individual truckers, and small transporters. So that it was not that difficult. The bigger challenge from that perspective was adoption of technology. At that particular point in time, right? This is pre-geos of the world, right? So adoption of technology was something that we had to really handhold these truckers at that particular point in time to sort of use the application and, sort of accept orders and all that stuff. So that is something that, was a journey in itself, which in turn translated into the tech development and the product development for the particular business. The third thing, I think, was getting the right people in, right? Especially as you are a small startup in a space like logistics, which is not very sexy. So to attract talent was a bit of a challenge. But over there, we actually did a lot of stuff from referrals and from the entire network of the college and all that stuff. We got in the first set of people from there. But yeah, I remember the first few quarters across clients, across tech adoption and tech development, and sort of building that initial set of the right people and the team was definitely significantly challenging. But I think the most important thing during that particular point in time is that the belief of what you're doing and persevering through those tough times is something that I believe is extremely important. Just as an example, the first 4 or 5 clients that we onboarded in 2015 are still our clients today.
Oh, that's great. So those clients have still stayed with you. So
Absolutely.
It's been what, 10 years?
Yeah, it's
10,
been 10 years.
11 odd years, and you still, wow, that is great. I mean, I'm sure LetsTransport is doing a good job then in terms of...
We hope so.
Yeah. So now when you talk about people, when you talk about referral, I would want to understand that, when you hire a middle manager or when you hire at a leadership role rather, what is it that you look for? Is it the skill set? Is it the experience? Or what is it? Like, is it the right culture fit? So if you can let us know that what is it that you basically, is it that you actually look for when you're interviewing a candidate?
Got it. I think all the things that you mentioned are all very important. But for our particular business, and I can speak only for LetsTransport, there are a couple of things, right? First of all, it is a people's business. Logistics operations is a people's business, right? And second is that we are not doing rocket science, right? It is a very, plain vanilla, at a 30,000 feet level is a plain vanilla business that we're doing. And from that particular perspective, we over-index on culture fitment. We over-index on values, the mindset. So that's one of the reasons why, we have around, in our interview panel, we are, at least for middle to senior manager, we have 3 to 4 rounds of interviews, including people and culture round. And that's where we sort of, over-index on the values, the culture, mindset, how we believe that that particular candidate can sort of gel with the team. Experience is important, obviously, but from our perspective, obviously it is a go no go per se. But these are the things which we sort of over index on while differentiating candidates.
Got it. So you're saying that anyone, because startups have a lot of chaos, so anyone who comes with a prior experience of working in a startup would definitely be preferred compared to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, what we also realized is that people only with a startup experience, as and when we have sort of grown, right? We prefer people who have an experience with not only working with startups but only working with slightly larger organizations, because they also understand the value of controls, systems, and processes. At the same time, have the agility and the flexibility that a startup sort of requires. So we prefer someone who has the balance or a mix of both, especially at the scale that we are in right now.
Right. Which brings me to my next question. Saying that you started, LetsTransport was founded a decade ago, and the startup ecosystem is very different. And the startups now, it's much more evolved. The whole ecosystem is much more evolved. So what do you think are the challenges with the startups are facing now? And what do you think things, the systems and things are beneficial to the startups currently in the current ecosystem?
So I think what I would say, as you correctly mentioned, right, the startup ecosystem in 2015 was very different from the startup ecosystem as on today. It's definitely much more evolved, much more mature. There are a lot of cycles. I think we have gone through around multiple cycles of funding and dried up sort of capital. What I believe right now, and I think it is a great thing for the entire ecosystem, was that earlier in between a lot of craze in terms of funding and growth at any cost. I think a lot of focus right now for startups is to build sustainable and profitable businesses. I think that is not only a challenge, but I think that is a differentiator for almost every startup out there. How do I make that business model, which we have been running for quite some time, how do I make it sustainable and profitable and show that this is something that will not only last for the next few years, but last for the next decade, couple of decades, even 40, 50 years, right? And how do I sort of, reduce my reliability on external funding to ensure success of my business, right? So obviously every type of startup has a different sort of, ecosystem. If you're building a new category altogether, definitely you need an initial capital to sort of, build that entire segment out. But I think the amount of focus which is there in terms of, building sustainable and profitable businesses right now, I think bodes really well for the ecosystem. And I think that maturity will only expedite going ahead.
Yeah, so I also think that, now startups are working towards creating value for people or the end user, which is, I think, a more focused approach to. Let's talk about parenthood. So you are also a father. I would want to know more about that, how being a parent, has evolved you as a professional. Are there any learnings which you take from your child, which you implement to your career or your working?
So I think one thing definitely having a kid, especially a toddler, teaches you is patience.
Yeah.
So basically, and sort of that translates to and empathy for that matter, right? Patience and empathy. And I think personally for me, that has sort of translated to the professional side as well, being a bit more patient, as well as empathizing, before sort of jumping into a particular situation. I think is something that I have sort of learned over the last couple of years after having a kid. Another thing that I think is really important and is then having a balance between the work, the personal and professional work, as well as the personal life, because I consider myself as a bit of a hands-on dad, and hence I love to spend time with my daughter. So what I've learned is carving out that time and that a space for the personal life and for my daughter. I think that is something that I'm still learning, but I think that has also evolved over the last couple of years.
Great. So you spoke about balance. So how do you maintain a balance? Because as I look at it, I think these are two full-time roles, right? Being a co-founder and a CEO and being a father. So how do you balance these roles, and how do you find time, or how do you find your quietness between all this chaos?
So a couple of things. I think what I've realized, I just split it between weekdays and weekends. So on weekdays, there are a couple of things that I do every day with my daughter without fail. For example, dropping her to school. Right, I'm the one who always takes her and drops her to school, where we sort of spend that entire journey. We spend around half an hour before I go to work. And I always make it a point to come back, and make my daughter go to sleep at night, right? That's another, a couple of hours that I spend with her. So these are the couple of things that I always try to do, irrespective of, how much work is there during the weekdays. So I always have that time with her. On weekends, I think things have changed. I prefer staying at home or doing activities with my daughter, which she loves, which she likes during the weekends. And that is something, whether it is, going for some sort of an event or an activity or a play area, or a cafe for that matter. She loves going to cafes, right? So, spending that time with her, I think, over the weekends and prioritizing that over, some of the, say, for example, professional work that can be spilled over to Monday is something that I have consciously tried to do over the last couple of years.
That's great. I mean, all the dads out there would take a lot of tips from you. Now let's move toward the quietly ambitious part of your career. How has ambition changed in your perspective from when you started your career to now? Is something I would want to ask.
So when you're young, you're considered very ambitious, and ambition at a particular point in time, even for me, meant that, going to the highest designations, highest ranks, being the CEOs of, very large companies, in terms of pay grades, etc. Right? So that was what, was there during the initial phases, even up to, college. But now, as you become more mature, as we have a family, I have a family, right? It's changed a bit. I think right now ambition for me means that, where I can add value, and I'm adding, that value at every aspect of life, right? Whether it is professional, right? Whether I'm adding value to LetsTransport in terms of making it building a sustainably large organization. At a personal level, whether I'm adding value to my family, to my daughter, to my wife, to my parents, right? Whether I'm there for them and adding value to them, and improving, continuously improving the way we sort of live, or operate day in, day out, right? So for me, ambition is the fact that can I continuously add value to all different aspects of life and continue doing that, over a sustained period of time.
Right. So you would want to say that you have this quiet ambition which you're trying to achieve every day, right?
Absolutely.
So the other question would be that what were the setbacks or any sort of learnings which you've had over your career, which were actually blessings in disguise, which you think changed the way you think, or, got your life to where it is now?
Absolutely. So I think mistakes were, I think, the innumerable mistakes. If I highlight our failures and mistakes, I think this will be a 10-hour podcast. But, a couple of things are, completely stand out. If I take it from a professional perspective, right? When we were building LetsTransport, right? We always thought that, the amount of business that we do, the revenue that we do, right, is the indicator of how well we are doing. And that's the entire thing that we are chasing, right? What we actually missed out, right, and is the fact that, there are other aspects of the businesses which are the most important. Finance, right, in terms of, not only profitability, but cash flows, right? Cash flows build or break businesses, right? So that is something that's extremely important. Controls, processes, right, is extremely important. So, those are big learnings. I think they were a blessing in disguise because, when you realize that there are mistakes that you're making, it gives you an opportunity to course correct. And that's something that we are also always in the journey of doing, and sort of, not making those mistakes again. So, those are a couple of things, right? Focusing on the financial aspects of building businesses, on systems, controls, I think is extremely important. So anyone who's, and I think this will be the biggest learning if, say, for example, tomorrow we do something again from scratch. This will be the biggest learning, in terms of doing it from day one itself. The personal side of stuff, in terms of life, I believe, and again, this is something that, I have realized, and I think I'm still sort of, building on it, is the fact that I'm not the best at keeping in touch with people who are not around me, right? And that is something that I have realized over a period of time. And that is something I believe, and having those connects at a personal level is, very, very important, especially as you sort of, grow older and more mature. So that's something that actually I'm working on.
Great. So nice to learn about these things which you're working on. So Prateek, as a co-founder and a chief operating officer, you are obviously, you manage people, you manage processes, you manage large teams. what is that one philosophy which you follow as a leader? So what is it that, which helps you stay calm in the chaos is something that I'm trying to understand.
Got it. So, I mean, obviously, there are a lot of challenges every day. There's a lot of pressure every day. So there are a couple of things that I at least try to do. Obviously, I won't say that, I have, nailed the aspect of it. I'm also learning every day. One is the fact that be calm, in high pressure situations, and try to solve a problem. What I've realized is, in terms of solving a problem, you can't be an expert. You will not have all the answers. But the most important thing is to ask the right questions. And what helps you ask the right questions is first principles thinking. So whenever there is a problem, whenever there's a chaos, whenever there's a problem, there's an issue that needs to be solved. Asking the right questions and going to the first principles and the fundamentals, I think is extremely important, which helps you sort of, dissect the problem into much more smaller solvable, solutions, and then sort of, work with the team in terms of trying to solve it. So that's something that I definitely try to do. The second thing I try to do is that I try to give a lot of ownership and accountability to the teams. I don't look to micromanage, because at the end of the day, we need to have responsible leaders who are responsible for their businesses and for their KPIs and for those numbers. So giving them the entire liberty to sort of build those businesses and those verticals out. But at the same time, having some sort of guardrails and controls, on what is happening. At the same time, giving those leaders the comfort, saying that, go and try and build a business out. But if there's something that, where you're getting stuck with or which could be a potential failure, I am there to sort of help and support you through that entire journey, and we'll solve the problems together. So that is something that, I try to do, and try to empower the team as much as possible. At the same time, give them the comfort that there's someone behind them to sort of help and support them, and work with them in terms of solving these problems from a first principles perspective.
Great. So nice to learn about these things which you're working on. Now, I would want to also understand that what are the quiet wins or, small wins in your life which you think are, which you achieve every day, which you don't give yourself enough credit for, may it be at work or or in your personal life. If you could, let us know some of the small wins or quiet wins.
The responsibility of, all the people working in the organization on you, right, is a different responsibility altogether, right? We have around 500, 600, 700 people working for us, right? And being responsible for those 700, people is a huge weight on the shoulders, right? So every day, when we believe that we have done something better, whether it is a better process, some good product development, some client actually which we have onboarded, which will help us sort of grow the business, something that has made us a bit more sustainable, right? Every day, which sort of goes towards ensuring that LetsTransport will thrive in the future, I think is all a quiet win, because that ensures that the 700 people who are who we are responsible for also are thriving along with us. Not only those, but the partners, the vendor partners, and the suppliers who are with us, or the clients who are who have trusted us, and the investors who have invested into us. All of them are sort of thriving along with the organization. So any small improvement that we are doing in the business every day, and any aspect of it, whether it is people and culture, whether it is finance, whether it is tech, whether it is product, right? I think you should celebrate every small win or every small progress, because that sort of, and it is only all these small blocks that actually build a large sustainable business. So that is something that we try to value, and we try to give importance to, and try to sort of communicate that also to the larger employee base as well. At a personal level, I believe right now, from my daughter's perspective, right, the most important thing for me is that she becomes a good human being. So any small thing that I sort of I'm able to inculcate in her in that particular direction, whether it is kindness, it is empathy, it is gratitude, it is respect, right? I believe that helps her become a much better or much better sort of human being going ahead. So that's something that I pride myself in.
So this brings us to the end of the podcast, Prateek. Thanks a lot for sharing your viewpoint with our viewers. And I'm sure there's a lot of, learnings which we've had over this podcast. And I'm sure that you're quietly building Let's Transport, and Let's Transport would be a huge success and one of the top companies in the near future.
And thank you so much for having me today. Really enjoyed the conversation, and all the best to you as well.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for watching this podcast, Quietly Ambitious. We spoke to Prateek Pujari today, who's managing a business, is also a father, and quietly achieving the goals which he's working towards. If you want to listen to any more topics, let us know in the comment. And if you like this video, do like, share, and subscribe to the channel.